The meeting of the regular city council meeting for September 22nd, 2016 is called to order at 7:30. Madam Clerk, the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Thank you. Roll call.
Alrighty. Councilman Bodier.
Present.
Councilman Benton.
Present.
Councilman Hewitt.
Present.
Councilman Johnston.
Present.
Councilman Wheeler.
Present.
Mayor Maselli.
Present.
Police Chief Walker.
Here.
Fire Chief St. Cyr.
He's not going to attend tonight.
And City Attorney Burris. City CPA Linda Lulu. And Municipal Clerk Nicole Lee.
Thank you very much. I'd like to first thank Officer Ted Ladner. If it wasn't for him tonight, we would be sitting in a very hot council chambers. He came to the rescue, and we have AC, so thank you very much. Very appreciated. He's very multi-talented. I'd also like to bring everyone's attention as they leave the building, if you didn't see it, when you entered, we have a new outdoor bulletin, which is weatherproof, where we will be placing agendas and important information for citizens, especially those who can't attend meetings. And we were able to obtain that in a very thrifty way. It was for free. So we were lucky. It was a fire sale. Just a few announcements. Camden Street between Hickory Avenue and Time Saver Avenue is closed and will remain closed until October 17th of this year. During the closure, Harahan access on Humphrey Street will be maintained at all times. Motorists will be detoured from Hickory Avenue to 3rd to Time Saver Avenue. And this is also posted on the web, and I believe it's hit Facebook in a number of places. Recently, we were informed that DOTD has announced that the intersection of Jefferson Highway and Bailey Street will have a continuous shoulder closure and a full closure near that intersection starting Monday, September 26th, which you've probably seen, through Friday, September 30th, from 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. for the repair of the cross-drain pipe and related work that was discovered during an emergency sewer repair and a collapse and repair in that area. Please detour to Wren Pass, to Riverside Drive to get to Bailey, or to Riverside Drive to Wren Pass to get to Bailey. And please be careful and cognizant of the workmen and the equipment. Also, some interesting, fun news for our city. We've been notified, and this is in part why our fire chief isn't here tonight, that the TV show NCIS New Orleans will be filming in Harahan until 8 p.m. tonight, and there may be some loud noises coming from the site. So my mom's a big fan of NCIS, and I know many others, so it's kind of exciting that we'll be on that television show. Special presentations tonight. I've asked a number of people to come before the council, myself, and particularly our residents to explain our sewer situation and the ways that we can remedy our sewer situation here. First, I'm going to ask the DEQ officials to come up. We have with us tonight Jonathan McFarland, who's with the administration and also of the DEQ administration level, and also Mr. David Wolf, who is their bond attorney of Adams and Reese. And if you don't mind, I've asked them to give us the 3 to 5 minute spiel on the DEQ loan or the Clean Water Program.
I'm going to let David do most of the talking.
You're tall.
I'm going to let David do most of the talking as our expert in the bond covenant. But any questions that any of you have for either of us, just ask away.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. My name is David Wolf. I'm a special counsel with Adams and Reese, law firm in New Orleans, and I work with the Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund, which is the fund at DEQ that has made a $4 million loan to the city of Harahan in the form of a line of credit that was closed a couple of years ago to help the city pay for improvements to the sewer system. The city agreed when it entered into the line of credit to borrow money from DEQ and has drawn down about $1.6 million of that line of credit and had spent that on the sewer system. That leaves about $2.4 million left still to be drawn down to continue the sewer program of
I think
improvements.
we've drawn down 1.16 is what we.
Is it 1.16? Okay. Well, we talked about a higher number before. So almost $3 million left to draw down. And I've talked with most of you all over the last week or so about the loan, and just wanted to make a couple of points again, and also for the benefit of the citizens who are here tonight, to help everybody understand where the city is and what the city's obligations are and what its options are moving forward. When a city like this borrows money to improve the sewer system and uses what's called a sewer revenue bond as a vehicle for borrowing that money, the agreement is that the city is going to collect enough revenue from user fees, from the customers of the system, to operate the system, to provide enough money to pay back the principal and interest on the bonds, and to provide a small cushion of about 10% of the annual payments on the bond issue. This sewer system is what's called an enterprise fund in accounting terms, and it's called that because it's meant to operate like a business. Unlike a lot of city departments like the police department, fire department, other types of governmental functions like public schools that don't generate revenues, utility systems generate revenues from their customers, and they're meant to operate like a business. So the revenues are meant to cover the costs of running the business, the cost of discharging the debts that the business incurs, and to provide a little bit of a cushion against depreciation, emergency repairs, and to build up a fund so that in the future, maybe the city doesn't have to borrow so much to do the next project that comes along. And when a lender like DEQ agrees to lend money to a city like this using a revenue bond, it's based on an agreement and a covenant that the city makes that from year to year, it will look at its budget, it will examine the revenues that the system generates and the cost of running the system, and that it will always adjust the rates when necessary so that the system is solvent, so that the customers are paying for the cost of operating the system, for paying off the debt, and providing a little bit of a cushion against a rainy day. The mechanism that cities do this by is something that's called a rate covenant that some of you all may have heard mentioned before. And it's an annual calculation in which the city has to demonstrate that the net revenues of the system, the revenues after paying the operating expenses, are at least, in your case, 110% of the annual payments on your note. So after you've paid the electric bill and the chemicals and the salaries and everything that it takes to run the sewer department, that enterprise is supposed to generate enough to cover the debt service on the bond plus 10%. And every year, the council is obligated to look at that number, to make a calculation, and just like you do from year to year in your own household budgets, decide what you need to do to be sure that you're bringing in enough money to pay the bills, to pay your debts on time, and to have a little extra saved up against a rainy day. Right now, as it stands, the city is basically not meeting that covenant. The only way that the system is staying solvent right now is by borrowing money, in a sense. It's not really borrowing, but you're appropriating money from the general fund to help prop up the utility system. So that means that the general fund, which has to support all the things that don't generate fees, like this building, for example, like streets and drainage and street lighting and recreation, is now having to subsidize a business, your sewer system, And it means that the customers aren't really bearing the entire cost of operating that system. And that's a situation that really can't continue. The covenants that the city enters into when it borrows money like this are that the system itself will be sufficient to pay its own bills. Now, you're allowed to take into account taxes that are dedicated specifically to the system. So if you have a millage, as you do, that's voted specifically for the sewer system, of course it makes sense that you can take that revenue source into account in this formula every year. But you're not meant to subsidize or prop up the system from the general fund from year to year, maybe 1 year at a time in an emergency until you can adjust your rates, but it's not meant to operate like that. The rate covenant is really kind of designed to be like the canary in the mine shaft. It's what tells you ahead of time that you're headed for trouble. And it's meant to alert everybody and raise a red flag that the finances of the utility need to be looked at, and that it may be time to examine the rates and determine if adjustments need to be made so that that enterprise, so that the business of the sewer system will generate enough from its customers to pay for itself. And that's the situation that the city is in now. The rate covenant's not being met, and it's not really optional. You're obliged under the terms of your bond documents, your loan agreement, if you will, to go through this process, to look at the coverage ratio, and to solve that problem by adjusting the rates or providing dedicated sources of revenues from other sources. Now, there's been talk about maybe another millage or other revenue source, but that will take, even if you started tonight, it would be nearly a year and a half before you'd see the first dollars from something like that. And the problem with the rate covenant now is that you are, at the beginning of your next budget cycle, already in a situation where the sewer system is not supporting itself, it's not meeting its covenants. Not to be alarmed, the city's not in danger of defaulting on the bond issue, but the city is in danger of failing to meet its promises to the lender, to DEQ, by not doing the prudent thing that the loan agreement is kind of steering you in the direction of doing, which is to look at your rates from year to year. And whenever you see that the rates are not enough to pay the cost of operating your utility, to make an adjustment so that the utility is solvent on its own. In the long run, that's good for the city and for the customers in a number of ways. Most importantly, it means that the customers of the system are paying for the system in proportion to their use. So the people who use a lot of water and sewer services pay more than the people who don't, which isn't true when you're supporting a system based on taxes. Secondly, it's meant to direct the city to operate the utility in a prudent manner, to operate it like an enterprise, which is what it is. Just like all of you who are in business operate your businesses by looking at your revenues from year to year, or your expenses from year to year, and adjusting what you charge your customers to provide services so that you have enough money to run the business, pay your debts, pay the insurance, keep the lights on, and make enough money that you have a profit to keep the business going. That's what you're meant to do with this sewer system. That's what all the paperwork is designed to encourage you to do and to steer you in the direction of doing. And so DEQ is here as your lender, not because they're wanting to put you in default or force you to do something, but really to help you in the direction of prudent management of this system, so that when the system is standing on its own, the general fund is more able to support all the other activities that don't generate revenues, all the other important activities that you all look to the council to finance, like police, like fire protection, recreation, street lighting, drainage, all those things that the city can't finance with user fees because those things don't generate user fees. So when you have an enterprise like a sewer system, it's really incumbent on you to utilize that system to generate the revenues it needs to support itself, that the customers of the system pay for the service that they're getting. And in the long run, you're going to be better off in doing that. And every year, this process needs to be followed. The accountants and the finance department, administration needs to look at the revenues, look at the expenses, and whenever it sees that the coverage ratio is in danger of falling below the required level, as prudent managers of the system, it's incumbent on the city to take action, because that's going to avert you getting to the position where you don't have enough money to pay the bonds, then you default, then that's going to affect your ability to borrow money for other things in the future. It subjects you to supervision by the legislative auditor, the bond commission, the fiscal review committee. There's a whole host of consequences, good and, well, none good, a lot bad, to that happening. So that's something you really want to avoid happening. There have been very, very few municipal defaults in Louisiana since the Depression. Probably you could count them on one hand. That is not a situation. Since the Depression. Louisiana's bond laws are very strong, and most cities and parishes and school boards respect them, and that's good because it means that lenders like DEQ, banks, underwriters are willing to lend you money. And any city, just like any business or individual, needs to borrow money from time to time in order to grow. Going into debt's not a bad thing always. Going into debt, just like when you borrow money to buy a house, is necessary and prudent. And what the city's done now in borrowing money to improve this sewer system is going to benefit the citizens for the next 20 to 30 years. And by borrowing money to finance those improvements and paying the bonds back over that same period of time, it means that the users of the system over that 20 to 30 year period are paying for the system rather than the customers today having to pay the $4 million. Just like when you borrow money to buy a house, you're paying for the house over 30 years that you're going to live in it. You're not paying for it all this year and then living for free for the next 29. So it's important for the city to meet its obligations, to follow its covenants, not just to pay the principal and interest of the bonds on time, but to follow all the covenants that are contained in the bond resolution. And DEQ is here and has offered to and has been working with the administration and the council to explain the obligations that are in the loan documents and to help the city fulfill those obligations. And I think I went over my 5 minutes, but I'll be happy to answer any questions or clarify anything that you all have that you're still concerned about, or anybody in the audience.
The 110% was a generous number that the DEQ negotiated with the city, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
What's the, if you would just explain.
Yeah, a lot of municipalities that have revenue bonds like this have a required coverage ratio of 120% or even 130%, meaning that the net revenues after they pay all the operating expenses of the system have to pay the debt service and then provide a cushion of as much as 30% of the debt service. So to put it in simpler terms maybe, or real terms, if you have a utility system that costs, say, $1 million a year to run, and you have loans that are going to cost about $200,000 a year to run, and these numbers are pretty close to Harahan's numbers, then the coverage ratio works like this. You pay the $1 million of operating expense. Then you have to have money left over. The net revenues is the term, sufficient to pay the $200,000 of debt, plus 10% of that in your case, $20,000. So the net revenues of the system need to be $220,000 to meet your covenant. That means the total revenues of the system need to be $1,220,000. Now, in an ideal world, the $1,220,000 or more, if you exceeded that ratio, would come exclusively from user fees. And that would mean that the customers of the system were paying all of the cost of running the system. Most places have a millage dedicated for this purpose. Sometimes there's a sales tax that can be used to operate the utility. And so we allow to a certain extent, those other revenues beyond user fees to count in that pot of $1.2 million plus. But ideally, you'd rather see a situation where the user fees alone bring in the example I just gave, $1,220,000. And that's the direction that DEQ would like to see all of its borrowers go in. You know, DEQ's mission isn't to be a bank. Their mission is to protect public health and to protect the environment. And this revolving loan fund is a tool that they can use, and they've used it all over the state. I think Jonathan said the other night in 60 of the 64 parishes, they have loans outstanding. So this is a tool that they have to help cities like you stay in compliance with environmental laws, protect the public health. So they're interested in seeing that ultimate goal is reached and that the loan is just a tool to get to that point.
I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay. What you're stating tonight is a little bit different in conflict of what you said at the meeting earlier this week. You're telling the citizens right now that we're not in almost close to default, but pretty much what you were saying at the meeting the other day is we are close to default and we have to pass this, or else you would take two steps, and that's the steps of either going to a court to get where y'all can control the rates, or y'all would stop payment at 1.4 million, or on top of that, call for the loan. So are you trying to lighten it up for the citizens, or are you just trying to be too harsh for us in personal meetings?
No, I was trying to compress what we talked about for an hour into 5 minutes, so I didn't address everything. One of the things that I didn't address is that, as I said at the very beginning, that the total amount that this loan covers it's a line of credit basically for $4 million. And the city has only started to draw that money down and only started to make the improvements that were in this overall capital project. Now I understand that the balance is $1.1 million. The money that you're bringing in now is barely enough to run the system and pay back the $1.1 million. It wouldn't be enough to pay back any more of that loan. So basically you have a line of credit that's still got money available for you to draw, but we know that you wouldn't be able to afford to pay that money back. So DEQ is not going to let you draw any more on this line until you raise sufficient revenues to demonstrate to them that you have the ability to run the system, pay the existing balance, and pay the money that you'd like to access now going forward. So if you want to use this loan, which by the way is a 20-year loan at less than 1% interest, better rate than you'd be able to achieve going to a bank or selling bonds on the open market. If you want to continue to make the improvements that this program was intended to finance, then the city needs to raise enough revenues to satisfy DEQ that you have the wherewithal to pay back the future draws. So they're not calling the police or calling in the Attorney General tomorrow. What we're really here to say, however, is that the city's on the verge, if it doesn't take action, of reaching the point where there would be a performance default. In other words, a failure to follow your covenants. You're not in danger now of not paying the debt. There's enough money to pay the debt. And there's a reserve fund, in fact, that will provide enough of a cushion that would carry you for as much as a year even with respect to the principal and interest payments. But that's not what that reserve fund is for. It can be used if it gets to that point. But if the city fails to fix the rates so that you have the coverage that the contract calls for, then DEQ has the right to use a number of different enforcement mechanisms to get that done. That can range from appointing a receiver to filing a mandamus suit, asking a court to force your hand to do that, to taking over the system, to calling the debt in altogether, accelerating the bonds. None of that is anything that we want to do. We don't want Harahan to be the first community in Louisiana in decades to default on a public debt. And so the covenants in the bond ordinance are designed to help you avoid doing that if you follow them. And they're
Right.
designed to steer you in the direction of doing that as as I said before, as a prudent manager of the system.
And you say we're paying, what we have enough to cover for right now, up
For
to a
right
certain
now.
time. Why the big increase if we're getting by right now? Why do we have to increase so much? Why can't we do it in increments or doing it as a millage? Why we have to do it all tonight?
I don't think we're here really to tell you that you have to do anything particular or that it has to be done tonight per se. But it's important that action be taken soon before the next budget cycle begins. Anything you do tonight is going to take a while for additional revenues to be generated anyway.
We just received a letter from the DEQ that says we have 30 days to submit how you're going to meet this 110%. So while it's not tonight, we've got to turn something in within 30 days.
So they're asking for your plan. They want to know what the plan is. And if once you tell them what the plan is, they'll evaluate whether or not that plan has addressed the problem. They understand, and one of the advantages of having borrowed money from DEQ rather than from a bank or from a bunch of underwriters with public bonds is that you can sit down at the table with your bondholder and ask them to give you some consideration, but that can only go so far. If you were in a situation where this loan was held by a bank or by another lender, they would probably be much more strict about the city living up to its obligations, not just paying the principal and interest on time, but meeting the rate covenant, doing everything else that you're required to do. So we're not here to say that, that the legislative auditor is waiting outside. We're just here to say that unless you take action or come up with a plan to take action that demonstrates that you'll be in compliance pretty soon, then they're going to have to consider the other alternatives.
All right, well, I'll just gather from the other meeting that if we don't do it, y'all are going to look within the next month to do what y'all have to do. That's what I gather from the meeting. So is that not the case or not? Because, I mean,
They're
all
looking
the
right
citizens
now.
are here, they want to know.
No, they're
And I
looking
want to know
right
myself.
now.
They're looking right now. I mean, I've never gone to a meeting like this in 35 years of practicing bond law where I've had to get up and really almost lecture what a city's obligations are to comply with their covenants. I mean,
Right.
y'all have gone as far as anybody has gone to the limits of what's possible without actually going into default.
If I may, so you make that comment, we've gone as far to push the limit, and Ms. Lulu made a comment that the DEQ sent a letter this week stating we have 30 days to remedy the issue today. The council has not been aware that this has been a long-standing issue or we've pushed it to the limit.
That's I disagree with that. If you look back at the minutes from the previous council, when this bond was first taken out in December of 2013, covenants went into effect. Y'all did the thing for 5% increase. You're supposed to look at every year.
I understand that. I have not been communicated to by any letters from the DEQ that maybe you were aware of or the mayor that this has been a long-standing issue up until very recently in the last 60 days. If I'm mistaken or I missed something, I'm human, but I don't believe I've been made aware of this crucial issue
Ms.
until
Hewitt,
just
in
recently.
the minutes of the meeting in 2013, you yourself stated, and I
I'm
can
talking
quote-
this year.
Wait,
We're in
can I-
September.
I'm just trying
That
to
this
finish
has
a
been a
sentence, Ms.
long-standing
Hewitt.
issue this year. I don't.
Point of
13
privilege, I was in the middle of a sentence.
Okay.
In 2013, you yourself made mention that when the council unanimously voted for the bond and took that obligation on, that you made a promise and an oath of this city to put it forward, and your own words stated that the rates were not, that you had increased in 13, were insufficient at that time, and you knew that we'd have to come back and increase. Now.
So when has
we're-
it been brought
we're-
up to the council to increase it other than the last 60 days?
That's the only time I've been aware. In March, I was contacted by the DEQ told that I needed to give an account.
You have a microphone?
In March.
You have a microphone over
In March of 2016, as y'all remember, I came in January, mid-January. In March of 2015, I was contacted via email from the DEQ asking to give a general accounting of the sewer system and how we're doing and how much we've withdrawn and et cetera. I asked them if I could have a deferment because I was in the middle of still trying to do a budget and that the audit was coming up. And the gentleman said, sure, not a problem. As soon as all that was done, which the audit was done end of June, right at the beginning of July, I got on it. I looked at it, tried to figure it out, talked with Tina, talked with our bond attorneys, talked with our other attorney, brought it to y'all's attention. We've been playing with these schedules and these dollar amounts ever since. So as soon as I realized what the problems were and what the numbers were and what needed to be done, I brought it to you. Prior to 2.5 months ago, I didn't know the magnitude of this.
Okay, so none of us knew the magnitude of this until 2 months ago, as you're hearing from our financial advisor.
But that's not their fault or
I'm
concern.
not faulting
Right.
anyone. I'm explaining to the public, as the mayor says, I passed an ordinance in 2013. If it didn't come to brought to my attention, I can't remember every ordinance on the books. That would be impossible, correct?
You took out a $4 million loan and you didn't remember the importance of the
You
rates
took
to
out,
it?
we took out a $4 million loan, and nobody from a financial standpoint in our city made the council aware that there was a problem. Do you see a problem with that?
You stated that you knew the problem back in 13.
I don't even get run rates. Do you think I would know
But
what
at
we've
any-
spent so far in that
Let's
loan,
just-
Mayor?
Let's continue the discussion.
Anyway,
If
right
we-
now in 2015, I had to turn in what our coverage ratio is. As you heard, it has to be 110%. We were at 35.3%. As of 2016, I'm projecting we're going to be at negative 31.5%. If we don't do anything in 2017, we'll be at negative 212%. Nowhere near the 110.
I would like to ask if this was correct, my understanding, that we have the remaining funds that were available for the bond have now been frozen. And that if we don't come into complete compliance soon, and until we come into complete compliance, those funds will not be made available to us.
That's correct. The remainder of the line of credit that has not been drawn down, they will not pay you any more under the line of credit until you are in compliance with the rate covenant under the loan agreement.
So to me, that is the most important thing. We will not have the money to fix any serious sinkhole or collapse. It's imperative that we pass this.
So that dollar amount that's on there, if that dollar amount is not changed to what it's supposed to be, we will not get any more money.
Correct.
Which dollar amount are you referring to?
The 575 per thousand.
Several different numbers.
Yeah, it's a couple different numbers, but
Oh, okay.
We presented.
Yeah, I haven't been involved and don't know what the rate structure is that the finance department and DEQ have worked out. Apparently, they've have a meeting of the minds of a structure that will provide enough revenues to meet your coverage requirements based on your usage pattern. That's
Right.
if they agree on that, it's up to you to decide whether or not to adopt
right,
that.
well, that's basically what I'm trying to ask is.
Yeah, that
if we
number-
don't hit that number, if we don't change it to that number, we're not gonna get any more money. The accounts are gonna be frozen. That's the number that DEQ agreed on.
Correct.
And that they will not give us a penny more until that is met.
Until you demonstrate additional coverage sufficient to support the additional draws,
Right.
they're not going to lend you any more on the line of credit.
But is it that dollar amount that was already presented to them and agreed upon, or is it less?
Touch that, that was the other.
With Sierra.
Sierra, the manager.
Was that John?
That's what was said in the meeting.
That would be one way to achieve coverage. What our financial analyst looked at, that you presented, she agreed that that would meet the coverage in 2017. But as David mentioned earlier, there are numerous ways that you can meet that coverage. It's up to you to figure out how to do that. So,
But the only other
DEQ
options y'all said we couldn't do, like as far as the general fund, you said you can't count on the general fund because we're running a deficit right now, so we can't use that money as a
Right. We
collateral
wouldn't-
type, I guess what you call it,
Right.
or
We wouldn't-
repayment.
We wouldn't allow you to pledge general fund dollars since it's a deficit account.
So the only
We don't
only
wanna
option we
wait.
have right now is the user
That was
fees.
my understanding at the meeting, that you all told us that was our only option.
Right.
To come into compliance with that rate increase.
Right. Fees that you presented would get you into compliance in 2017.
And if we went less than that, we wouldn't be in compliance.
Ms. Lulu,
That's for her to
do you
answer.
have handy in front of you the reserve fund balance?
Right here in our packets.
Like in the back?
Let's see.
330,000?
Also, I think a crucial point that I'd like to make is the maturity date of the DEQ loan. Any delay in adopting rates or millage, et cetera, does not change that maturity date. So to meet our obligation, wouldn't those rates or millages, whatever's in place, be sharper and steeper with each delay, every day, every month, every several months?
Yes, what the mayor's referring to is that when the loan was closed in 2014, it was set up where the city would pay interest only for 2 years and then start to repay the principal and interest over a 20-year period. The first payment actually has already been made of principal. It was a small percentage of the amount that the city's drawn down so far. So you have 19 years left to amortize this money. If you take 2 or 3 years to solve the problem where you can start accessing the balance of this money, you only have 16 or 17 years to pay it back instead of 19 years, which compresses the debt service and means that the annual cost is going to be higher. So in addition to the fact that you won't get the improvements done for a longer period of time, the cost of paying them back each year is going to be higher, which increases that $200,000 number that I gave you in the example and means that the rates have to be even higher because you're paying back a shorter loan. You all understand that if you buy a house with a 30-year mortgage or a 15-year mortgage, the monthly note on the 15-year mortgage is higher because you're paying it back over a shorter period of time. It's the same with the bond. If you have to pay the remaining balance of this $4 million back over 15 years or 16 years, it's going to cost more than if you pay it back over the 19 years that you have available now.
Also, the city was prudent taking out, this was a opportunity for the city to rehabilitate a crumbling system. And Mr. McFarland, since maybe you're the engineer type person, can speak to this, that this really goes to the basic fundamentals of protecting the health, safety, and welfare of a community, because an unfunctioning sewer system creates great risks. If you could just elaborate.
Well, as David mentioned, the program was developed under the Clean Water Act. And so the whole point of this program, even though it's a financial system, is to assist communities in achieving compliance with the Clean Water Act. Currently, Harahan has sewer overflows during heavy rainfalls, raw sewage coming to the surface in people's yards and your local waterways.
Backing up into people's homes, too.
And backing up into people's home, which is obviously a public health issue. So it's one of those fundamental systems that no one really likes to see or talk about, but it's absolutely necessary from an engineering perspective and from a public health perspective. And so we have the program that, as David mentioned, loans funding at less than 1%. So it's, in a way, subsidizing municipalities. If you were to go to the open bond market, you'd be paying between 3 and 4%, I think, today. So, you know, from that perspective, you're getting a little break on how much money the city's actually going to have to spend in order to maintain the system where it needs to be, to prevent the spills, and the hazards to the health of the community, citizens, and the environment.
And the city has experienced multiple emergency breaks that we've had to repair. A repair for an emergency break is much more expensive, correct, than if we would just rehab the system, replace lines, et cetera.
Right.
So,
Just like with your car, maintenance is a lot cheaper than replacing the engine. And so with the city sewer system, the quicker you can get out and make repairs, the less it's going to cost you, and the less it's going to cost the system. Right now, you're paying a lot of money to operate the system based on the amount of rainfall that's inflowing into the system through leaks and pipes and that sort of thing. So these repairs not only help with the hazards that are in place, but it also helps with the costs that you're incurring simply operating the system.
and as long as the DEQ sees that the city is willing to rehab its system, it's my understanding that they know that we are working on our compliance and trying to meet all needs so that we're not going to find ourselves in any
Right.
problems where we might have fines which were quoted upwards of $50,000 a day. Correct?
Our branch of the DEQ
You don't
is set
do
up is set up specifically to keep those guys away from you. And so the quicker we can get things cleaned up and the spills taken care of, the better chance we have of not getting compliance involved. Nobody likes them.
And if there is a problem, this may go back to Mr. Wolf, I'm sorry if I'm going between you two. Should the city default, there are some pretty major impacts for the city. It's my understanding, it could not only impact our ability to borrow money, but also our ability to participate again in this fund, grant monies may be withheld from the city, et cetera, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. You know, a city's credit rating is very important, just like an individual's credit rating is important. In the normal course of events, local governments borrow money from time to time for all kinds of purposes, not just water and sewer, but streets, drainage, public buildings. And if a municipality, and this is true whether you're in Louisiana or any state, defaults on its debt, it becomes nearly impossible for that municipality to borrow money in the future for any purpose, even if that next bond issue is paid from a completely different source of revenue for a completely different purpose. It becomes a mark on your financial history that takes decades to overcome. So it could affect even police grants, fire grants, capital outlay, et cetera, from the ability of the city, from our citizens who pay taxes to get those taxes back in grants. We could be hindered if we do not. That's right, and in the worst case, Louisiana is set up where there's a fiscal review committee that supervises local governments that are having financial problems, and in certain cases, they can appoint a fiscal administrator who will come in and take over the operations of the city, and then all decisions are out of your hands. Everything is controlled by the fiscal administrator.
If that fiscal administrator would come in, it could be quite plausible that they may deem it necessary to even have higher rates than what we have established.
It's possible.
I have one other question.
No, you got it.
One other question. Calvin Hotmeyer, the city engineer, stated at the meeting that the second phase of the sewer repair was scheduled to begin, but now that the funds are frozen, we're not able to implement that second phase. So my question is, if we were to pass this this rate increase tonight, when would those funds become available to us again?
Well, I think what would have to happen is that the ordinance would be adopted and would have to, of course, be signed and become law. And then DEQ would look at the projections again And once they're satisfied that the projections are accurate and that the problem has been solved and that the new revenues, taking into account the adjusted rates, provide the coverage necessary to support the full $4 million, then they would, as you say, unlock, the balance of that line of credit. The longer that takes, and the engineer can tell you, the more expensive those projects are going to become. We've all read about projects that, initially cost a certain amount of money, and by the time they were argued over and years went by, the cost doubled. So these projects are all projects that the clock's ticking, and every day that they are not under construction, they're just going to get more expensive.
And interesting, on the agenda tonight, there is an ordinance about moving money from to apply capital money for an emergency sewer repair of $70,000. If we could have gotten ahead of the game, it could have been a lot less expensive. We also currently have areas that are primed for collapse that we've been waiting for the next draw to repair, so it would be less expensive. And it's, these are the people's lives and homes and backyards, and it's pretty critical.
I have a question, Mr. McFarland. When was the city actually put on notification about the moratorium of the funds and that y'all were no longer going to release any more funds to us? Because this council was just made aware of this 2 days ago.
Right, I think it was,
Yes,
right, and it wasn't in the letter you received today.
correct.
So
So
it
we
would be-
received notice less than 48 hours ago that if we don't implement this, y'all have already frozen, if I'm not mistaken, our means to draw any more off this line.
After discussions with the city this week, we realized that although you can pay the debt service on what has been drawn, you will not be able to cover the debt service if you draw more.
Can you talk more into the microphone? I don't know if the audience can hear you.
Sure.
You can raise it.
After the discussions with the city this week, DEQ realized that although the city can pay the debt service on the 1.16 million that's been drawn thus far, the city would not have revenue available to pay debt service if additional funds were drawn.
But the sewer fees allocation is based as if the full $4 million is being drawn. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did
So
you
when
say
we
one?
propo-
Did you say 1.6? I'm sorry.
1.16.
So we do have the right number, 1.1, not 1.6, right?
Right, but this increase from $2.50 for every thousand to $5.75 is based as if the city pulled all 4 million today. That's what, right, because you,
Why would we do that?
Right. So
Okay.
right now, your bond covenant is for $4 million. And so in those covenants, it states that the coverage ratio has to supply coverage of the highest debt service for the
for the
term of
maximum
the
amount of
loan.
the loan.
Right, so it is based on a debt service of $4 million, right?
Because it just doesn't give, in all fairness to the citizens, ample time to be prepared for such a huge increase in their bill when we were just notified 48 hours ago that the
Well,
loan.
the notification from DEQ regarding the need for the city to take action to come into compliance with the coverage ratio was sent months ago. The
Right, but-
moratorium
but
happened this week.
This council, if
but-
I'm not mistaken, just received information probably within the last 60 days. And every day, the dollar per thousand changes. Even at the meeting on Tuesday, it was given X amount of dollars and it was changed to another amount. So it just makes it very difficult when we're trying to share the information and make a decision. I know that it's not, just kind of makes it, I was just surprised to be told 2 days ago that they're being held to the funds. Okay.
In fairness, DEQ isn't at City Hall every day looking over your shoulders
I understand.
and looking at the monthly financial
We don't
reports.
see
They
it
may
either.
do so in the future. The normal course of
don't get to see
events.
it
Look at them either, so.
The normal course of events with an ongoing loan is that when the audited financial statements become available, some months after the end of the fiscal year, they're submitted to DEQ, which reviews the net revenues for the previous fiscal year and make sure that the rate covenant's being complied with. When they see that that hasn't happened, they make a call, followed up by a letter if necessary. They're patient. They ask you to look at your options and to come up with a plan to address the deficiency if one is found. That's a process that takes a while, and that process has been ongoing this year. It didn't start on January 1st because the year-end figures and the coverage ratios from last year weren't known on January 1st. I don't know when the audit was completed exactly, but they normally take about 6 months. And so once those audited figures are available, then everybody has a basis for taking some action. It wasn't until, I think, the meetings that we had within the last week, as Jonathan said, that it sort of became apparent that there was resistance to the idea of making the adjustments that municipalities required to make under these loan documents. And it really wasn't until they realized that the city was seriously considering not doing anything and not addressing the concern that they had to say, well, in that case, we can't honor any more draw requests. So yes, that specific statement is relatively recent, but this process has been going on, and nobody should think that this is something that just
Right.
popped up at the
And
last
this
minute.
ordinance to address this has been deferred twice.
Yes, it's been introduced some time ago and been deferred. It wasn't introduced last week.
No, I was talking about the default. I mean, not the default, the no more releasing of funds. That wasn't mentioned 60 days ago.
No. What the city was instructed to do months ago was to evaluate the non-compliance with the bond covenants and provide a plan to regain compliance.
And
At
that plan
point-
was the ordinance.
Which
Right,
was
at
a
that
letter
point-
that got sent last November, and we didn't receive until past 60 days. As a council. I'm not talking about the city, I'm talking about the council, who
Yeah.
will be the people that
Right.
vote on this and make the adjustments. But the council itself, this has been known for almost a year, and the council has only had that letter a month or two.
Right, and the council designates a authority on the bond issue, which in this case is the mayor. And so that's who gets the correspondence. But as far as the funds being frozen, that is a recent development based on information we received this week.
Can I ask one quick question? Are you asking for a number tonight or a plan? Because I hear you say plan and I hear
The
you
letter-
say number, so I'm,
Right.
Plan is the ordinance.
Right. The letter that was received by the city today gives you 30 days to provide us with the information to ensure that you regain compliance with the bond covenants. And so we're here tonight for informational purposes, to answer your questions and any of those in the audience.
we had spoke at the last council meeting, I was in favor of raising it 20% to make back for the past 5% of the 4 years we got, with an additional 5% coming each year. And it's not that I think that we have any pushback. I think that times are financially hard right now. I think we don't want to put no more stress on the citizens that we possibly have to. And initially, when we wrote the ordinance, it was to be raised 5% annually. And though I know that hasn't been done, at that time, we figured, since that, with the ordinance, the loan was based off of that ordinance, that's the way it would be structured. And so now, so that was my take, and it wasn't, I know that I didn't get to meet with you guys, I'm sorry, I was out of town on business. But my plan was let's go back, raise it 20% and get into initiation, and maybe not even, create an ordinance to where it automatically renews every 5% every year until we hit the number where it should be projected to cover the 4 million. So I'm sorry, I don't know about the resistance, but I'm pretty sure that's how the decision got made on whether you decided to hold the loan back or not.
To hold the loan back
I don't think
is-
there was a resistance, I think there was a concern.
To hold the loan back is strictly based on the math. You don't have the revenue to pay back more debt service than you currently have.
Can you speak to the 5% that the city adopted an ordinance in 2013 saying that the city self-imposed a cap of 5% increase. But that 5% increase, to my understanding, did not meet the bond covenants which the city and the council voted unanimously to accept, correct?
Lest anybody misunderstand, when the $4 million loan was closed, that loan approval was based on projections that the city gave DEQ in writing as to the future revenues of the system and operating expenses and net revenues. And those projections have not come to pass. And so that's why we're in this boat. If the projections had actually, if the results had actually matched the projections, we wouldn't be here tonight.
Right.
But the results didn't match the projection. I don't know why, and we're not really here
Right.
to figure out why. or
I'm
to
aware of
figure
one
out-
thing.
Right.
I've received, Mr. McFarland sent me the copy of the letter that was sent. I know that a part of it was banking on the millage that was there at one time, but that had expired, so that was, I
Yep.
think, $200,000 was marked for that. So I understand that part. Another question I have is the dollar amount, just like Councilman Bode was saying, is there any way to make it less and do a little bit more with the reserve fund to make it so we can get on a plan where it's not so much of a hit to the citizens?
You know,
off the
there were,
get-go?
I don't know what the reserve fund monies, consist of or what they're being held in reserve. There's a debt service reserve that's required to be funded to 1/2 of 1 year's debt service that you must hold for the entire life of the loan unless you're going into default. That's about $100,000 based on the full $4 million. But that's a one-time revenue source. That's just putting off the day of reckoning.
Right.
And as Jonathan said, it's just a simple math formula. It's a simple one division problem. Net revenues divided by debt service. The debt service number, if you borrow the full $4 million, the denominator of that fraction needs to be $200,000 in your case. That's the debt service on the $400,000 if you pay it back. The numerator has to be enough so that the resulting fraction is 110% or greater. How you get to that numerator is up to you.
Right.
That's not our job. That's
Right.
your job as policymakers.
And for the benefit of the citizens, I just want to remind everyone of some of the history. In 2012, we had a sewer millage. We have two sewer millages. One was 1.77 mils and one was 0.88 mils. The 1.77 mils lapsed for lack of advertisement, so it failed. And it did not get renewed. That sewer millage at that time brought in $200,000 from citizens on ad valorem taxes. What we're looking basically and doing in these sewer rates on the same numbers, about 200,000, 210,000 in sewer rates. So it's really, since 2012, we haven't paid in that 200,000. Now, we're gonna have to start paying in that 200,000 again. Now, the wisdom of this council, how they choose to get to that point, that's up to the council to decide. But we know the number that we have to raise.
And I actually have a question for you when you finish. So.
Tim, because I know you weren't there, I actually had asked Miss Sierra from the DEQ, because she's the one who helped me massage these numbers and explain to me, and she's the one who told me I had too low of a debt service ratio dollar amount in here. I asked her, what if the council decides to only do 5, 10, 15, 20%? Because I feel you. I feel that's reasonable too, and that would be considered a good faith effort on my personal resident opinion. And she said, no, that would then definitely put us in default of the loan, and everything would be frozen. She would have to go to her uppers to see if they were going to call the $4 million loan, but her personal opinion is they would put an engineer out here to assess the situation. We would have to pay for the engineer to come up with what the sewer rates would be. A receivership would happen, which is what they said, y'all wouldn't make any decisions from that point. But I just wanted you to hear, I did ask that specific question.
Then also, the other question is, did you ask or do you know if we go up 20% and use part of the reserve fund, would that be sufficient enough for them temporarily at least to try and do a millage, try and
No, she's-
put it up
she's-
in increments?
No, I asked that too, and she said that we have to come up to these fees right now. We can put the millage, try to get that for a vote. If the millage passes,
Right.
then of course, we do what we're supposed to do anyway, every year,
Right.
or more than every year. We can do it every 3 months, every 6 months, whatever we want to do, and we can drop the millage, the fees. But we have to come up to it now. And as it is, even if we pass it today, we're not hitting
Right.
the ratio for 2016. And as they said, they're being awfully patient as lenders.
So Sierra said, if we don't have this dollar amount, accounts are frozen, we're not getting any more money at all.
And then we're
And
in default.
possibility we might be defaulting.
Correct.
Thank you,
That's
Jen.
definitely the answer I was looking for.
Mr. McFarland, you made a comment that someone communicated to you from the city this week that the ordinance or lack of, I guess, engagement, and you were receiving, or the city was receiving resistance from, I guess, the council on trying to remedy this issue. Can you let me know who communicated that with you?
I don't believe I stated anyone.
You were communicated to this week that there was meeting resistance against the ordinance being
I
passed.
think maybe David might have mentioned that.
I'm just curious where that would come from.
I think maybe, David, did you mention that? I didn't mention anyone in the
Okay.
resistance.
Well, it was said tonight. I'm just curious
Right.
who would do that.
Well, and I guess I'm just a little confused too, because we just received notification. You said that basically we got a letter today saying we have 30 days to put together a plan, correct? But we tried to, Sierra is not even giving us 30 days. No matter what plan we presented to her, it was no. So we're not really getting 30 days.
This is the plan.
No, we're,
that's the only
we're
plan?
telling you to
That's the
give
only
us a
option.
plan within 30 days.
That's the only option, that's how
Yeah, and you asked that during your session with her.
I said that earlier.
Well, the other option too we talked about was increasing it and maybe putting it on the ballot for a millage increase.
Right, and we asked her that, and she said, well, that's great, we have to increase the fees to these dollar amounts, that's the only dollar amounts that is to 110.
So our 30 days has turned into 2 days to make a decision.
No, you have 30 days to provide the department with a plan.
plan.
And
Okay.
show us how you'll
means
regain
we-
compliance.
That means we have to act tonight.
That means 2 days.
Okay.
Our next meeting, we deal with
Correct. And
so if we need to sign ordinance to say these are our new sewer fees, then yes, we have to pass this.
Okay. And I believe this was a second such letter.
That's the first letter that we just got the letter today.
Okay, what was the letter from November?
That letter just said just median internal ratio and answer questions about 2015.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Just seemed like we weren't.
does
doing enough
anybody
now.
else have questions?
Like I said, I mean,
The standard letter is to provide a plan within 30 days. That's a form letter.
I think it's
We're
kind of
making-
confusing because it's, different people are saying different things. You know, at the meeting, it was all doom. It was, you have to do this, you have to do this. When y'all were talking earlier, it was, oh, we're not going to default, we got to do this.
What
But
David-
then we're
what
back
David
to, if
mentioned wa-
we don't do anything, then action's going to be taken.
I think some of your confusion is coming from the difference between a performance default and a payment default. You're currently in performance default based on not meeting the coverage ratio in the bond covenants. You're not in a payment default, meaning that you do have enough revenue to pay the debt service. So it's two different things.
Okay, so we're worried about performance right now. That's why we are
We're-
frozen the money because of the performance.
We're not meeting the
The-
covenants on how we agreed to pay the loan back. We have the money.
The-
We can
the
pay it.
30-day
It's just
plan-
not the way that they want it and the way the terms of the loan was written.
We can pay what we've already drawn down. but we can't
It was
pay what we-
$30,000 was our premium. And next year coming up's 50. So we can afford it. It's just that we're not meeting the verbiage in the loan on how we would pay it back on user fees.
I beg
Is
to
how
differ.
I understood it last night.
I
That
beg
you
to
can't take from
differ.
you can't take from general, you can't take from capital, we can't take from our reserve fund. Capital has 830,000 in it. The reserve fund has 330,000 in it. We can't take from those monies because it has to be covered by a user fee, is what I understood last night.
If you borrow money, if you borrow additional money under this line of credit, you must demonstrate to the bank, which is DEQ, that you have enough money, revenue, recurring revenue, to pay that back. One-time revenues don't meet that requirement. If you have money in your capital programs fund, then, and you have some sewer repairs, by all means, use that money to make the repairs rather than drawing on DEQ. That's one-time money that will never come back, though. What they're telling you here isn't that you have to do something tonight. They're telling you that if you want to draw more money on this loan, you have to present a plan to them that demonstrates that you can meet the rate covenant in the future from recurring revenues on the amount that you wish to draw. If you want to abandon the remaining almost $3 million of line of credit and just close out the loan at $1.1 million and go on, then all you have to do is raise enough money to meet the coverage on that. But they're going to be looking at your ability to stay in compliance with environmental regulations and, as Jonathan said, with the Clean Water Act. And it doesn't sound to anybody like you can do that if you just stop maintaining your system tonight. So, yeah, legally you could just decide to shut the whole thing down and raise enough rates to cover the $1.1 million and pay it back. But that is just going to cost you more money in the long run. And their DEQ is here to try to help you see why it's beneficial and in the long run cheaper to your constituents to pay for these improvements using 1% money, less than 1% money at today's prices, rather than putting off these expenses into the future when it's going to cost more.
And I want to keep accepting the money, believe.
I'm sorry?
I want to keep accepting the money. That's a definite. It's just, I was just asking questions, trying to figure out, because it's a big hit for the citizens. This is over double on user fees, and it's a big hit to everybody. And I'm just trying to find
And
out,
Ms.
trying to see if we can squeeze by some other way, but apparently not, because it has to come from certain fees
Ms.
that.
Lulu did feel, though, I believe that if we pass the ordinance tonight as is, that we have a good sense that we won't have to raise again, correct?
All
We'll
right.
be good.
And then, of course, if we're able to do a millage, then it will drop.
Correct.
If we don't do a millage for 2021, it looks like we're still gonna be able to drop.
So if we
It's not a
increase,
hurricane.
So it's a temporary, pretty much a temporary couple-year thing, and we might be able to look at dropping it after a couple of years, if we don't have a millage.
And Craig, we can review
No, not if we don't have a millage.
these rates as often as you wish.
no, if the
We
millage
don't have
passes,
to wait
then we
for
could
once
potentially
a year.
drop.
We can put
Correct.
this on the agenda as often as the council wishes, as anyone wishes. Okay?
Wait, I was just asking Linda, so if we raise it to the 5.75, and in March, there's a millage, and it passed, which the revenue we said would not be used until 2018, and it's 200 and something, okay? So then, does somebody's user fees go from 575 to 450?
I didn't do the calculation, yes, we can then decide we're gonna decrease it.
It will probably be a substantial decrease
Right, yeah.
if we can get the millage passed. But if you can't, and we have to go with these numbers that you're calling about, in a couple of years, you said 2021, we should be able to go down well, maybe not then, 'cause inflation and all that will probably stay at the same, but,
And you don't know what else is going on.
Right.
I mean, another hurricane could come.
Right.
But, right now, as of 2021.
but your definite answer right now, you talk to Sierra, if we don't come up with these numbers, we're not getting any more money, and we have enough to pay what we have, so we're not gonna really go in default,
Right,
but we won't get any more money.
right. Plus, she said that she will tell, as required, she will tell the Louisiana State Bond Attorney, and she will tell the legislative auditor, which then we will not be getting any more federal and or state monies. And half of what we receive for grant monies is for our police department.
Thank
That's
you.
all the question I have for y'all, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
remember, by making the system support itself, it will alleviate the demand that the system is making on the general fund. And that's going to provide you with funds to address things like public safety that don't generate user fees, that right now are also looking for money.
Thank you very much. I've asked also Mr. Hugh Martin, who is our former city attorney, to come up, please, if you don't mind. And he's also our bond attorney and friend. Do you want, no, we need to call for a recess. Councilman Baudier is calling for a 5-minute recess. Can we have quiet in the chambers? Thank you for everyone's cooperation. Mr. Hugh Martin is the city's bond attorney, former city attorney, resident. He's always been someone that the city can count on for sound, sage advice, and I thank you for coming tonight. He also attended our executive sessions with the DEQ, the 3 representatives from the DEQ. I just want, from your own perspective, how should I say this? How would a default be reflected, be perceived in the community or in the state?
Yeah, a default you would not want to enter into by any means. It would be somewhat of a disaster as far as the business carrying on and providing the services that you need to us citizens in Harahan. I think you, in good conscience, you would want to do what is necessary to keep the sewer system running. We are all at the 11th hour on this, there's no doubt about it. Action does need to be taken tonight, I would think. The only other alternative for raising money, which can actually provide enough funds, would be a millage. But if we had a millage voted on in the spring, which is the earliest that you could have one, and it carries, you would not receive any funds from that millage until January of 2018.
So we couldn't readjust those rates.
So you have that gap that there's no real way to fund it. Now, if we stay at the same level and don't draw on the loan as we are now and don't draw any additional monies, could you skate by? Maybe there's a way to do it, but I don't think so. And what happens, God forbid, if we get up tomorrow morning, there's a major breakdown in the sewer system and it doesn't work, and the sewage backs up. Everyone who has sewage back up, if you've ever had it happen, know it's not a very pleasant experience. Not only is it not a pleasant experience, but the potential liability and claims for damages done to the individual home could probably exceed the amounts we're talking about in some areas. Nobody wants to think about that. I think the prudent thing is to go forward. It's a difficult thing. We all know people who are on fixed incomes, who already have difficulty, and we have to hopefully help with what services are available to those people in that economic class to help people get by and neighbors help neighbors. But the big problem needs to be solved. That's about all I can add to this
Thank
transaction.
you. I think we really admire your input. We really respect what you have to say, and it means a lot, and thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Does anybody? Next I've asked representatives from Veolia, Scott Patterson, and Calvin Hotmeyer, who is with Stewart Consulting, the city engineer, to kind of bring the citizens up to speed. Before we start, I do want to make note. We did evaluate communities around near us: Kenner, Westwego, Mandeville, Gretna, and Jefferson. Currently, we are the absolute lowest sewer rates. With the increase, at a glance, it looks like we will be the lowest or second to lowest in those regions. So this by no means brings us all the way up to what Jefferson Parish pays, which is greatly a lot more, or Gretna, which is more than even Jefferson Parish. We are very conservative as far as what we've compiled as far as the increase would be, that, what would be necessitated. So, hit it, Calvin.
I'm Calvin Hotmeyer, I'm a professional engineer and vice president with Stewart Consulting, who was hired as your city engineer. I was going to give a briefing on where we got to in the program, how we got there, where we are, and what we're looking forward to doing. In general, in 2014, we started with some investigative projects, which was the TVing of all of the sewer lines in the city. There were to the tune of about $625,000 work. There was some admin, legal, project management, design, and inspection for another 300 and change. And we did do an initial construction project. We did 6 or 7 repairs as part of an emergency repair program. All of that came to the 1.16 that we have spent to date. That does include design on future corrective action. The results of that sewer system evaluation was that we looked at 600 line segments throughout the city. 100 of those, that's 28 miles of pipe that we TV'd. In that, there are 100 critical lines that need to be repaired at a cost of about $5 million. There's another 272 lines that have priority repairs required. It's another $6 million. There's about $11 million worth of repair work that we're gonna take the first chunk out of it with this $4 million program. Currently, complete design, sitting at DEQ's desk, is the manhole project, which is a citywide program to fix all the manholes that need to be fixed in the sewer system. Phase 1, which is the peach, pink, beige area, depending on your outlook, is pump area 6, 7, and 8. That project was delivered to DEQ for review in August. It's ready to go. That's a $1.4 million program. The next area that we were looking at doing repairs in were pump station areas 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's the purple area. We're at about 60% design. We're holding there because that project will take the bulk of the $4 million. What we're doing is we're waiting to see what the bid prices are in phase 1, so we can apply that to the phase 2 quantities, see what adjustments, if we can add any more areas, if we have to lose an area. But right now, those two colored areas, it's a fair part of the city. It's a significant portion of the city that we're gonna repair. What those repairs do is reduce the water that's getting into the system from outside sources, from groundwater, from drains that are hooked up, from other water sources that we are currently pumping. Some brief numbers, but the current treatment capacity that we have at the plant is a 1.5 million gallons a day. In 2015, on a monthly average, we exceeded that 1.5 million gallons a day 8 of the 12 months. In 2016, we have now hit 8 out of 8 months, exceeding that average. We are still treating the water to the appropriate biological levels, but we are exceeding the flow rates. What that means is a lot more wear and tear on the equipment, a lot more wear and tear on the pumps, the individual stations. That's what has caused our overflows that we've had. Remember back in December, we held a number of citizens meetings discussing the overflows in 8, 6, and 7. It's why those became the priority to fix those areas. So we are currently working on those repairs. I'm gonna let the new Veolia gentleman, this is Scott Patterson, he is replacing JR.
JR is still with us, JR.
He's gonna
but-
still be in the area, but he's gotten an
upward.
improvement in life, and this will now be our day-to-day operator at the
And
plant.
welcome, under such circumstances, welcome. Thank you
Yeah.
for coming.
I'm Scott Patterson. I'm with Veolia Water. I'm the project manager. I've been with them 15 years. I've got water, wastewater, collections, distribution, management experience. As he was saying, your plant capacity is at 1.5, or it is 1.5 million gallons a day. And when you exceed that, you know, you have the potential of possible violations. Your effluent quality, you're only designed to remove at 1.5 million gallons a day. Now, we're not out of compliance, but there is potential for that. The plant is designed for 1.5. Now, the easiest way to remedy that is your collection system. And as Calvin was saying, when you're running at full capacity like that, you're pulling more power, you've got more wear and tear on your pumps, so now you have maintenance costs, extra maintenance costs. And the same way in your field, once you tighten up your system, now your lift stations, those pumps aren't running the same hours. Your run times are lower. And the best way to remedy that is your collection system. And tightening up your pipes, that's the first step. You try to work upstream to downstream. The only other option when you go over capacity is a plant expansion, and that's not cheap.
And if we're at capacity, what does that mean for the city as far as any kind of growth or any?
At this time, we are meeting our current rated capacity. There
If you
is-
would speak, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Essentially, there is no room for further development. You could get to the point where you did significant action to stop further development. Individual homes, individual apartments, any other. There is no more room for sewer in your system. Plenty of water available. That's not the problem. But from a capacity on the sewer side, as we do these improvements, when we do these improvements, it will allow you to additional capacity because we will be reducing the flow into the system. With that reduction becomes available capacity. The system was designed for the entire square mile area in the city, but you are now exceeding those averages with all of the inflow and infiltration that's coming from outside sources.
With that 1.165 that we took already, what was done with that money so far?
Okay, so far, it was $600,000 for the sewer system evaluation, which was the TV work that was done, started in 2014, was completed probably late December of last year. And then there were legal fees, there were project management fees, there were design fees, as well as construction and inspection fees that are included in the next $370,000. That's how it works. And then lastly, there was a single construction project that was actually bid in 2014 that we put in place in May of 2016. It was completed, did the first 6 or 7 repairs within the city.
So out of all that money, only, what, 100,000 maybe?
Well,
Was
we've
actually done
put $165,000 in the ground.
Right.
Now, bulk of that, the TV work, which tells you what's broken, what needs to be fixed, is a significant part. That's why DEQ
Right.
funds that, because they need to know what to fix. It helps you prioritize the areas, which are the most important, which are the critical. The Bailey repair that currently took place recently was on our list in pump station area to be fixed. It broke before we got there. And we've done about 5 or 6 others during the course of the year that were already identified in the system, but the timing didn't work right.
And we have another one right now in a resident's backyard that we're basically holding our breath, hoping that it doesn't collapse.
Right. And I just want to clarify for everybody that you mentioned earlier $4 million, but it's not $4 million anymore. We only have about $3 million left.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
2.9.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify to everybody.
Well,
'cause
yeah,
when you-
but I mean, the $4 million program.
Right.
The $11 million that I'm suggesting is programmatic cost. That is not just pipes in the ground.
Okay.
It is the administration, the construction, the design, the supervision, and all of the administration and financial support that's required.
Any other questions? Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. I believe our next special presentation is Ms. Harahan with Wood Materials. And I'd like to thank everyone for all the work you've put into addressing the sewer issue.
I'm Sarah Louise Ham from Wood Materials. And to Mayor Maselli and the council, thank you very much for letting me speak, and to the audience. Appreciate the opportunity this evening to speak to you all. I'd like to update you on our activities, and then I'd like to address, correct, and clarify some things that have recently been brought to our attention. And because the facts really do matter, I think it's important that my comments be read into the public record. So first of all, the Corps of Engineers Pump to the River project is almost finished. You'll soon have the drainage that you really need, but those improvements to your communities have come with a price. You've put up with a lot of commotion like traffic and road closures. And please realize that this huge project created much of the cause for complaints directed at Wood Materials. Vegetation that used to contain sand from blowing was removed to make way for the pipeline construction, and pile driving, etc. This will all be over soon. I'd also like to update you on the status of the new Hall Road, which we have committed to build, that will move trucks further toward the river and farther away from the neighborhood. We've been accused of delaying, not moving fast enough, but if you listen carefully to this timeline, you will understand that we are taking forward steps and that the federal government is not to be rushed. In December, neighbors told us they wanted to see the road relocated. In January, we brainstormed that concept. That road's been there 70 years, right where it is. February, we met with the Corps of Engineers, who controls everything from the river to the levee, to discuss the likelihood of getting their permission to move the road, and asked them what requirements would be necessary to apply for a permit. In March, we hired a surveyor to put the road project onto a map of our property. In April, we hired an engineer to perform feasibility studies and process the permit applications. In May, we received an okay from the levee board for the road project, and they told us they were optimistic that this might be enough, but that we still had to submit an application to the United States Army Corps of Engineers for formality. In June, we submitted the joint permit application for all required governmental agencies, hoping that the local permits would be enough. In July, we learned that the Corps did in fact require us to formally provide them with an application for permission to move the road, meaning that the approval process would take longer than we had hoped for. In August, we received the Department of Natural Resources permit, and here we are in September, currently awaiting the Corps of Engineers permit. While we requested an expedited review and approval, our request was not successful. Thus, we, like the community and city government, are in a holding pattern while the permit remains subject to final approval by the United States Army Corps of Engineers. To further substantiate my comments and to satisfy any questions regarding why this permit has not been granted in an expedited manner, I would like to suggest that maybe this council could reach out to a member of the Army Corps of Engineers, maybe invite them to your next meeting. Maybe they can explain and clarify the process and the delay. But please know that we are as eager as you are to have this road permitted and built. We've already expended a great deal of money on surveyors, engineers, and others. Perhaps your involvement can help expedite that process that your constituents have demanded. Often we get blamed for things, we get misunderstood, and every once in a while I feel it's important to come in and tell our story. Last time I was at a city council meeting, a resident of Harahan, George Ackle, came and stood at this podium to tell us how Wood Materials Sand makes a mess out of his Extreme Motorsports showroom. So a couple of days later, I drove over to Extreme Motorsports, and I was going to go apologize to him and see if we could do anything for him. And when I got there, I realized that his shop is directly across a ramp of our competitor's sand pit, which is a half mile downriver from us. So, you know, it's just another example of we're getting the blame from other people's activities. This is a rumor, we're often the victim of rumors. We heard that we're moving our office trailer and truck scales into Jefferson Parish so we can avoid paying taxes to the city of Harahan. Well, why would we want to avoid paying taxes to the city of Harahan? We want you all to get the taxes. We've supplied a lot of taxes. Let's get into that later. We pay the same amount of taxes no matter where our trailer is, whether it goes into Jefferson Parish or Harahan. We pay the same sales tax. So we want you all to get the sales tax as a business in Harahan. started the Pump to the River project, our trailer was in Jefferson Parish. We had to move it. They came and made us move our trailer into Harahan. And when the project is over, we're going to put it right back where it was, status quo, return it where it was in Jefferson Parish. Harahan's still going to get the same sales tax from us. But the movement is also to align up with our new road. So we have to move our office back to where it was, and so it'll align with our new road that we're hopefully getting permit and built. So it has nothing to do with taxes. Speaking of taxes, since 2011, Wood Materials has paid approximately $600,000 that's gone directly to fund Harahan City Services. And that's in addition to the $425,000 in sales tax revenue from our Harahan site alone that supports Jefferson Parish Public Schools, which includes those used by families in the city of Harahan. So that's about $1 million in the last 5 years that Wood Materials has paid into Harahan. So I think we're a pretty significant revenue generator for Harahan. So more untrue allegations made regarding our work to support the new airport runway project. It's been alleged or complained that sand sales for the airport project will continue around the clock for the next 7 months until March 2017. But in reality, we've been informed by our customer that our work will be completed in less than half that time. And I also want to point out, to correct any statements or opinion made otherwise, that since the airport project began on March 25th, that's been about 27 weeks, we've actually only conducted nighttime airport sales out of our Harahan facility for less than 12 of those weeks. We've diverted airport project work to other facilities, which has minimized the impact on Harahan. So I hope you'll keep that in mind when you consider your latest ordinance to arbitrarily single out Wood Materials by subjecting our property to an hours of operation restriction. So as I close, I reiterate to everyone that we desire to continue successfully operating our 70-year-old sandpit business there in Harahan in a good neighborly manner, and that we remain hopeful that the misinformation and legal matters can be put aside so that we can all work together in a cooperative manner. Thank you for your time.
Chief Walker, you had a special presentation?
Mayor, council, viewing public. The last meeting I mentioned that we go through ballistic vest on a regular basis. The vest has about a 5-year lifespan, and we're constantly upgrading them to the officers. We've had some new officers come on board lately, and as I mentioned in the last meeting, we were purchasing 10 vests for 10 officers to replace some and some new officers coming on. And that we had payment for 8 out of 10 from local residents and business places. As a result of that, Wood Materials contacted me and bought the last 2 vests. I still have 2 more to go that I think the city's gonna pay for, an ordinance that was introduced tonight, but I said, my number one concern is our officer safety. And today, it's really something that's needed. With 19 full-time policemen and 28 reserves, we go through them quite frequently, upgrading them. So with that, I wanna thank the residents and the business places in the area that have supported us in these purchases. Start with Mr. Eric Chatelain, Chatelain Services. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Everybody is here from Robert Chong from Pipeworks in the camp. We'll get to him. Let's see. Someone from Woods Material, is Caroline here? Yes. Oh, okay. Ms. McDaniel's not here from Harahan's, I'm sorry, St. Rita's School. They purchased a vest for us earlier this year, and we thank them very much for that. Beverly Industries, I don't know if anybody's here from them. They purchased vest for us. Donald Farbacher, Farbacher and Sons Electric. Okay. And Mr. Chris Marone from Riverlands Insurance Company. So we'll get those to them. But we're very, very grateful. They write at $500 a piece, and that's $5,000 right there that's been donated to the city. That saves our budget, and our operating budget, and we're very, very appreciative. I'd like to go into monthly stats for,
We've got a lot of business if we can do
Okay.
this so that we can move forward. I don't want to,
Wanna
can you do
wait?
that on report?
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. We had two late additions for items to be placed on the agenda for new business. May I have a motion to amend the agenda to add the St. Rita annual procession request as number 5 and a request for an ABO for Heads and Tails Seafood Restaurant as number 6 under new
Motion.
under new business? I have a motion by Councilman Hewitt. Is that? Johnson and seconded by Councilman Bodier. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda is now amended.
I didn't realize, I was gonna make a motion to amend the agenda to put another item under new business. I guess that would be number 7. It is the Jambalaya Cook-Off Car Show for the Harahan Athletic Association on Saturday, October 29th.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Bodier, seconded by Councilman Johnson. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. Jambalaya is going to be number 7 on the agenda. We
had the St. Rita Eucharistic procession.
Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. I currently would like to provide notice that prior to the next regular city council meeting on October 20th, 2016, a special meeting will be held on the same day, starting at 5:30 p.m. for budget hearings. Mr. Burris, I'd like to confirm that this meets requirements of notice.
I believe that if the special meeting is called at a meeting of city council, it's effective, so.
Thank you. We will now address the council. Address the council is now open. Anyone who is interested in addressing the council, please come up, state your name and address. Note that you have 3 minutes to address the council. Please no inflammatory comments, and everybody, if we can pay attention, thank you very much.
My name is John Ream. I live at 3 Wren Pass. Since Sarah Wood and Wood Materials had been running their nighttime operations from Harahan for a while, I don't think they should object to not being able to run nighttime operations, the sand trucks and front end loaders. And I think the residents of Harahan can't take a chance on all the noise that these things produce all night long from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And that's why this ordinance, we back this ordinance. Harahan is known as a bedroom community. Mayor Mayo is quoted to say that in the history of Harahan. And all-night noise in Harahan-Batcher will disturb sleep and bring in more particulate matter and will further ruin the quality of life of the Harahan residents. Amendment applies to any operation on Sandbatcher, but since Wood Materials is here addressing the amendment for restricting hours of operation, and Wood Materials is one of the companies working on Harahan-Batcher, we will state facts regarding Wood Materials. Harahan residents have never had all-night work on the Batcher with dump trucks, cranes, excavators, and front-end loaders before this airport project. The video on August the 2nd, which is the last time they ran, Wood Materials dug very deep in pit number 3, and you could not see the tops of the equipment, even from the top of the levee. Residents could hear the loud sounds, even with a wall of sand around the equipment. Wood Materials will be able to continue nighttime work on airport project without Harahan sand pits. They have 3 other sand pit locations: Hornville, Wagaman, and Lower Algiers. Other local sand companies doing project do not have 4 yards to work from. The Harahan sand pits are the only sand pits along the river that is next to such a large residential community. All-night work from Batcher will cause loud noises, interrupting sleep, bringing more sand on property and cars. also bringing diesel emissions from 18-wheeler dump trucks and sand from uncovered and overfilled trucks, damage to River Road and local residential streets, and will continue to fill the drains with sand, causing more flooding around businesses along Hickory Avenue and River Road. If dump trucks use the new haul road along the river all night, dump trucks, cranes, excavators, and front-end loaders will enter into pit and will be closer to residents and closer to the berm in the pit. The residents will still hear the loud noises of beeping, horn blowing, loud dump truck engines, cranes, front-end loaders, and excavator working all night.
Time.
That's it. Okay.
I turned off the sound, I'm sorry, and it is the beat that can go on. Please.
My speech shouldn't take a long time. I may go over, but considering that we've been doing this for about 16 months, I would request that I get to go over a little bit, because we didn't even get the agenda on the computer to show that Wood Materials was going to be on the agenda and have a presentation. So I'm really kind of frustrated with representing the residents that we wouldn't even be told that, showed that we checked the agenda before we left. So we come in and here they were sitting here, and they got a presentation. So I got about 3 minutes, but it's probably going to go over to about 4 or 5 minutes. So I'd appreciate the assistance with letting us say the important information that we need to say. Okay, my name is Evelyn Rain, Free Rim Pass. Wood Materials had a cease dredging order from DNR for dredging sand above permits of 225,000 cubic yards of sand. Wood Materials dredged 914 cubic yards of sand in 2015. Wood Materials applied for a new permit from DNR for 1.5 million cubic yards of sand. DNR renewed Wood Materials' request. Wood Materials is now dredging again. Wood Materials stated in a letter to customers on August 24th, 2016, we are proud to state that we did not run out of sand at this location. Our dredge will start pumping sand Friday, August 26, 2016, and will continue until all the pits are full. We have requested Hall Road to be closed and moved along river since meeting with Wood Materials on December 8, 2015. We addressed the council on January 21st, 2016 with a presentation including airport project. We have addressed night work for 9 months. On January 29th, 2016, a letter to the mayor and signed by Pierce Wood and hung on residents' doors. Wood Materials states, meet with the Corps of Engineers to discuss the possibility of a new road south of the sand pits, and states we requested this prior meeting to the city council meeting on January 21st. That meeting has been scheduled for Wednesday, February 6th. We will share the information that we received as a result of that meeting with you and the community immediately after. We never got a word back on this meeting, and the meeting at the senior home was postponed and never rescheduled. If Wood Materials would have steadily since January addressed all the agencies about moving the road, it would have been completed months ago. On February 25th, Wood Materials sent a letter to DEQ or for an NOD letter served to Wood Materials on February 4th, 2016. In that letter, 3 actions and 4 additional measures were stated by Wood Materials. Those actions and measures were not completed, except for Measure 3, where the Google map was enclosed showing drawings of closing burns between 3 and 4. After DEQ released Wood Materials from the NOD letter, Wood Materials used an excavator to break open the newly built burn, which is still open today. April-May article. Inside the New Orleans...
I motion for 3 more minutes.
Thank you very much.
Motion by Councilman Johnson to extend 3 more minutes.
Thank
Do I have
you.
a
I should
second?
not go past
I have
that. Thank
a
you.
second by Councilman Wheeler. All in favor? Any
Thank you very
opposed?
much.
3 more minutes. is
Thank you.
approved.
April-May Inside New Orleans magazine. Sarah Louise Woodham states they attribute their success to being motivated by our family's value of honesty, communication, respect, and harmony. On August 11, 2016, New Orleans City Business article titled Wood Materials, Building New Road, Relationship with Harahan Residents. We care. We really want to be good neighbors, said Ham. The article stated, She said it would take about 6 weeks to complete the new Hall Road, which began construction in July. Construction did not begin in July, as stated in the article, on August 11, 2016. Almost end of September, and construction has still not begun. On August 24, 2016, Wood Material writes to a letter to customers and states, "We will create new and better haul roads for entire facility. We hope to start this massive project in the next few months. We keep seeing the date of the new haul road being moved. Taxes are paid on sand where it is delivered. Most of the sand is from Harahan Batcher is delivered out of Harahan, giving residents a lot of sand and not much revenue. Harahan receives a little over $200,000 a year in taxes from wood materials. The mayor needs to enforce the Harahan ordinances on wood materials. The mayor is saying how much revenue the city needs, but has not enforced one penalty on wood materials for breaking the ordinances of Harahan Batcher, even knowing we have almost daily videos and pictures of continuing activity. Wood Materials is trying to operate all-night truck business, is illegally mulching and composting, illegally tree dumping, illegally coffee waste dumping, illegally unloading barges, and continued stockpiling of limestone. Also in Jefferson Parish, within 300 yards of Harahan residents, stockpiling and crushing concrete and asphalt is being done. Why does Harahan government allow Wood Materials to be above the law? When is the mayor going to enforce the laws of Harahan and issue penalties for Wood Materials actions? Thank you for giving me an extra 3 minutes. I appreciate that very much. We got residents to sign. They don't want the airport project to return here. They have 4 locations. They can use the other 3. They don't need to have all 4 of them.
They have been running from the West Bank, from Wagaman, the nighttime operation.
And then also we have a little further down the request that was given to the mayor of all the things that we needed to do. And then we have way down further, we have the written request. So I mean, how many papers does Harahan need? How many times did people have to sign these papers and say, do something to help Harahan? Well, we just cannot have nighttime project to come back here. It needs to stay, all the sand's gonna be paid somewhere else. It needs to stay in the other 3 pits and let us get our sleep at nighttime. We deserve it. People work hard in this area, and we look at the sand all over our house, we can't take the beeping. Please be with that ordinance, that amendment, please. Thank you.
Kay Mitchell, 41 Oak. The facts are, because we're going to stick to facts here, that wood materials, they're horrible neighbors. They affect deeply the quality of our lives. The facts are that they've taken advantage of our quality of life and continue. They put our health at risk, put our children and pets' health at risk. They are damaging our homes, our vehicles. The nighttime operations are unbearable. The noise and the traffic are not in the best interests of the citizens of Harahan. And if we want to talk revenue, how many people are going to want to move to Harahan, buy houses and live here and be in an industrial wasteland? Our Pearl is becoming an industrial wasteland. When I walk my dogs past the mulch, the insects that bite us, I don't even know how to identify them. It's disgusting. They are affecting our quality of life, and it's your job to help us. And we're not stopping. We're not going anywhere. And we shouldn't have to do it ourselves. We should get some help. So help us. Just enforce ordinances. They're there. Help us.
Darlene Schwartz with the Harahan Police Department. I've got several announcements, and I'm going to try to stay within my 3 minutes. Harahan Senior Citizen Center, I was asked to make this announcement, is having a sale on October the 14th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Crafts, collectibles, food, silent auction, and door prizes. It's going to be all that for sale, $10 if you're a senior center member. For a table, $30 if you're a non-member. You can rent a table. All proceeds will be used for craft, health, and exercise instructors.
Call Harahan Senior Citizen Center for more details. Thank you. Okay, a little tongue twister there. We had some people here a little bit earlier. They had to leave from an organization called America's Heroes. They're a 100% nonprofit organization that benefits. They raise any money, goes 100% for our local veterans. And they're having a golf club tournament. It's across the river, Lakewood Golf Club on General de Gaulle, October the 10th. Their email is americasheroesnola.com for any information. Again, the whole organization is strictly volunteers. 100% of the proceeds of anything they do goes strictly to our local heroes. Let's see, next up, Night Out Against Crime. Again, St. Rita's, Tuesday, October 18th, 6 p.m., 8 p.m., a band, inflatables, free food. Everybody here will be there, I'm sure. We're going to have a good time. It's like a big block party. Come have fun. Let your hair down. We're going to have federal, local, and state law enforcement agencies and private industry also with some good information for y'all. National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day, October 22nd. That's a Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Please bring us your drugs. Rite Aid Pharmacy on Jefferson Highway, Harahan Police Department lobby.
What's that date again?
October 22nd. That's a Saturday. We did phenomenal the last time. Let's beat our own record. Any information you need, call Tim Walker, call myself, Chief of Police over there. And then last thing, I want to say a real special thank you. Bear with me. The Rio Atlanta consignment shop that's over at the where the Dollar General store is there, they have donated the local franchiser, Rebecca Harmon, is a citizen of Harahan. She called and may I
I motion to finish.
Please, thank you.
I have a motion to extend 3 more minutes by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Bodier. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank y'all very much. Okay, 30 seconds or less. She called and donated literally thousands of clothing items, toys, books, infants, kids stuff that she didn't get to sell. She asked for some help in getting this stuff to needy people. I got together with, I'm telling you, some law enforcement, some people that used to be in law enforcement, local citizens in Jefferson Parish here in Harahan, probably about 24 people. We helped so many families out, it was unreal. So a special thank you to Rebecca Harmon and the people that brought their stuff to her consignment shop to help other people. It was just a lot of work, but absolutely phenomenal that we were able to help flood victims, tornado victims, just all sorts of people. So thanks to everybody that helped with that. Thank y'all very much.
Hello, my name is Julie Kinney. I'm at 909 Franklin Avenue. I have 2 statements that I'd like to read. One is from my neighbor Kevin Smith, who is at 913 Franklin Avenue, and he was unable to attend. He's at work tonight, so I'm requesting an extension. They're each about 3 minutes each. So as I said, this first statement is from my neighbor Kevin Smith. This is his son, Kevin Smith Jr., who's helping me with my visual aids. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, we the people affected by the sewage issues in the Royland subdivision would like for all of you to look at this from our perspective. We cannot use our toilets during rains because the waste does not leave our homes. This turns into foul stenches and bacteria that build up and become toxic. We are not asking for anything that all of Harahan does not already take for granted. This loan and the increase in water bills was approved by the previous council, some of whom are on this council. You're going back on your words to repay this loan, and you yourselves are not allowing us, the ones who elected and re-elected you, to remain in an inhospitable environment. You yourselves are forcing us to live in conditions that are typically found in third world countries. The problem is not going to go away just by continuing to vote down the increase. It will only get worse, and the minor increases in water bills will become more detrimental the longer this is pushed back. If Harahan loses the ability to take care of its sewer system, we will be forced to go under Jefferson Parish sewage. This is not something we want. It will be the beginning of the fall of Harahan as it is. We will have to rely on the parish to fix, maintain, and upgrade our system. That is something Harahan should never be comfortable with. We are an independent city and we should stay that way. In a previous meeting, the subject of a millage that was allowed to lapse came up. This millage was for a large amount of money that was to be used for maintenance of our sewage system. This millage, even though it will take about 2 years to become an available source of money, needs to be advertised correctly and put back on the ballot. This money could also be used to lessen the burden of a higher water bill to many of our fixed income citizens. If you say you do not want higher water bills to affect the people in the affected area want the bills higher so we can use our toilets and not have properties covered in raw sewage. Would any of you like to volunteer, come to our homes, help clean our vehicles and streets and sidewalks or properties every time we have a rain event? Anybody? Any takers? Anyone? Would you let your loved ones walk and play in raw sewage? Anyone? No? No takers? Would you tolerate what we have to deal with at your homes? Would you like to wait several days after a rain to take a shower or bath because raw sewage comes up through your drains? These are some of the problems we deal with and are forced to accept by choosing to live in Harahan. If you would not allow this, why would you force your citizens to deal with it?
Motion for 3 more
I have a
minutes.
motion for 3 more minutes by Councilman Johnson, second by Councilman Bodier. All in favor?
Yay.
No opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion for 3 more minutes passes.
I appreciate that, thank you. The old terracotta system is failing. There are signs of erosion in several areas of Harahan. This will only get worse over time, not go away on its own as the terracotta pipes fail and break. The system will only get weaker. Our subdivisions problems will soon start to spread to more subdivisions until everyone has sewage problems like ours. This is my second one. Good evening, council members. My name is Julie Kinney. I want to begin by saying, Harahan lives matter. I live on Franklin Avenue. I'm here to represent my fellow neighbors and all of the residents of Harahan that are experiencing sewer and drainage issues, as well as those who may experience issues in the future if we don't find a way to begin the repairs now. Out of 15 homes on Franklin Avenue, 13 have been affected by the sewer and/or drainage issues during or following a heavy rainfall. The 2 homes that do not experience problems, one of them is raised, and the other house has installed their own plumbing shutout valve to prevent the issues. So I imagine if those weren't the situations, they would experience the same problems as well. The people on my street and in other areas of the city are experiencing one or several of the following issues: toilets not flushing, toilets bubbling, sewage backing up into the houses, sewage and toilet paper and even used tampon pouring out of driveway manholes, puddles of sewage in sidewalks and streets. I have some pictures here that show, you can see the toilet paper and the raw sewage all collected around the grass there. Growing bacteria and smelling like a petting zoo. Some people are having to resort to use buckets in the place of a toilet. This is unacceptable. Some people have been dealing with these issues for up to 30 years. There are 6 known manholes in the immediate vicinity of my home that overflows with human waste and toilet paper during or following a heavy rain event. This is a growing problem that will eventually worsen and spread throughout the entire city. Not only is it unsanitary, as well as a major health risk, it's causing a lower quality of life for several of our citizens. It's allowing, our property value is being lowered by the second. If we want to sell a home or get a second mortgage, that might be a problem for us. These living conditions, again, they're unacceptable, you guys. So, let me skip some things here. So the city voted and agreed to a loan, 2 of them current council members, but didn't enforce necessary increases. We are asking that you step up and follow through with the city's prior agreement and do what is required. It seems clear that there is no other choice than to find a way to generate funds to pay the DEQ loan and afford to pay for sewer repairs. I have a few questions. How would you feel if this was your home? How would you vote for this sewer rate increase if you were having these issues on your property? Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie.
How you doing? I'm Gary Hopkins, Vice President of the Harahan Firefighters Association. We had some problems going on back at the firehouse. As a whole, all of us feel completely ignored by the council and the administration. It's not just this administration, it's been previous administrations as well. We're just tired of being ignored. We're tired of the mediocrity back there. We are tired of carrying the financial problems of the city on our backs. We're the first ones to get cut. Things haven't been replaced. It's really hard for us to show up to work with a smile on our face knowing that things aren't right. We feel that we haven't been given the tools to succeed here. The citizens deserve better, and we deserve better. We want better. We want to be better. You know, these guys here, we have paid for our own uniforms sometimes. We've bought equipment for the trucks. We've used our own personal tools to put on trucks. We have spent countless man hours going to training, going to school, none of which the city is responsible for. We do that on our own. We've also paid for things to replace on the fire trucks. Small equipment repairs, we have paid for that. Nothing has gone through the city. When you look at our line item budget, it's $0 down the line for so many things. There's no way that we can be successful at what we do if we have no money to be able to do just simple things of preventative maintenance. You know, an oil change on a fire truck is expensive in comparison to your normal vehicle, but that's way cheaper than replacing a fire truck or even just replacing an engine. We do this out of love for each other and a love for this community. We grew up here, we have families here, we have friends here. This is what we wanted to protect. We've had opportunities to go to other fire departments, make much more money. This is where we want to be. This is where we love. A lot of other fire departments would look at our budget and would laugh. There are volunteer, strictly volunteer fire departments in this community, around this area, that their budgets are 2, 3, some of them 4 times higher than what our budget is. We need to do something to allow for proper funding for all departments in this city, including ours. You know, for years we have been grossly underfunded, almost to a negligent point. We have to do something now. We need to start a dialogue.
I motion for 3 more minutes.
I have a motion to extend time for 3 minutes by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Benton. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion passes.
We need to come up, we need to start a dialogue. I don't care if it's with the chief or with us, everybody together. We need to come up with short-term plans because we have immediate needs, and we need to come up with the long-term game plan because we are spiraling downward rapidly. You know, we want to be more efficient and effective at what we do. We just don't have the money. The manpower, as Chief has explained numerous times, it's starting to affect us physically. We keep having guys going out with back problems because they're working 3, 4 extra shifts in one time frame. And we're not giving our bodies any time to heal. I just ask that we put away any political agendas, that we are courageous in making the right choice to help fund us. Like I said before, we deserve better and the city deserves better. Thank you.
I'll, excuse me, be brief. I'm actually speaking on behalf of somebody else that couldn't stay. But I would just like to say, I'm Terry Valenti, 191 Colonial Club Drive. I would first like to say that the last 2 groups that spoke are so compelling. I'm a blue family. My husband retired from the police. My son-in-law is a policeman. But I feel so bad for our fire department. The last meeting or so, Councilman Johnston's father lavished gifts on our police department. I'm sure it was all needed and it was all appreciated. But our firemen sit here and I'm sure they do feel overlooked. And the chief has explained on numerous occasions he's going to keep his men safe. If a structure's burning, he's not going to send men in to be, in harm's way when there's not enough men to come in. So I support you, and I support the residents with the sewer problems, and I hope we all do, and stop playing politics, because that's what's happening, Mr. Bodier. I'm here to announce the Boxers Brew and Barbecue. Miss Leslie was in here earlier and she just couldn't stay. It is October 1st at the Camp Bar. They had it last year. It was very successful. It is to benefit the Louisiana Boxer Rescue. They've been rescuing boxers for over 20 years and do a phenomenal job. This is a great event. It should be great weather. Adults are $10 to get in, and that includes your food, so you can't beat that. Children under 12 is $5. They will have a kissing booth where you can get kissed by a boxer, which is a favorite. A raffle, a 50-50, a silent auction, door prizes. They have a green egg raffle, and it's just a $5 ticket, and you could win a green egg. And most importantly, they have their famous boxer short contest. And that is a contest where people actually dress their dogs up in some kind of crazy boxer shorts, and they'll have judges there, and there'll be a winner. And it's really, really funny, and it all goes to a really good event. And I hope you consider going. It is October 1st. That's not this Saturday, but next, I believe. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jefferson Parish Councilman Paul Johnston. I had no plans of appearing tonight and talking, but Ms. Valente, who continuously attacks me and my son on Save Harahan, continuously lies and says wrong things, is incorrect. I just gave the fire department $75,000 to buy equipment. So, Ms. Valente, once again, you don't have your facts right, and you get in on TV and attack people, you don't know what you're talking about. But I don't do it to get any credit or any, so y'all to thank me. I mean, I do it because I want to help my city. I do it to help Harahan. I help Westwego and Harahan, two municipalities in my city that don't get too much aid from the parish. I do what I can to help. I've helped y'all in the last 4.5 years. I will continue helping y'all. And I will continue helping the police and the fire department as much as I can. And the recreation. I help the senior center. I help everybody in the city of Harahan. So again, I'm sorry, I didn't want to come appear before you guys, but I heard what Mr. Valente said outside, and once again, bad information. Thank you.
Eric Chatelain, 700 Colonial Club Drive. When your house is on fire, the fire department's real important. When someone breaks in your house, the police department's real important. When your sewer's backing up, the sewer department's real important. This loan was loaned to the city in good faith that the council and the mayor would pay this loan back. If we do not pass this ordinance to raise these rates, I think it's a little high, but I'm not in here doing the numbers. You could pass this ordinance, raise the rates, come back at 6 months, readjust. You have to provide your paperwork to DEQ. If you go to buy a house and you lose your job, you're gonna lose your house. You know, they need to see where the funding's coming from. They had projected revenues on what was gonna be done. Obviously, some of them things hasn't happened. I'm sure them revenues had commercial property across the front of Colonial Country Club. You know, I'm sure they had numerous things. I don't see the numbers. I believe there's a lot of stuff hidden in City Hall that should be more public, out known to the public what's going on. I don't know. It's a secret. You come in here, you want something, it's a major ordeal to find out. I don't believe anything's done wrong, but the public does not know what's going on. This needs to pass. We need the extra $2.9 million. And that's not gonna solve our problems, nowhere close. I could take any one of y'all and drive through this city right now and show you probably $2 million worth of sewer issues that I know of, and I'm an electrician. If I had these sinkholes in my backyard, I'd be here every day. I'd be on the news, I'd be blasting this city. This money's not gonna be enough to make our repairs. When you have a problem with flies and sand from the batcher, that's your issue. It all depends on where you live. I don't have any of these problems. I'm lucky where my house is, I'm not having any of these issues. Thank God. Because if I did, I'd be here every day. I got more time than you could dream of. These people can't afford to pay these rates. It's a must. When you drive your car and your transmission goes out, you make way to get your transmission repaired. It's a tough thing to do to put a fee on someone. It's got to be done. Can't say it's the right political move, but if you go in default, it's definitely the wrong political move. The rates have to be raised. Thank you.
Good evening. Remy Donnelly, Counsel for Wood Materials, just addressing y'all tonight about the first reading of Ordinance 2016-15, which is the hours of operation restriction on wood materials property. And just as we've kind of consistently communicated our concerns, you know, that they're extremely arbitrary ordinance that you're still looking to pass here. That's even more apparent how directed solely towards Wood's business operations, and Wood would be the only business here in Harahan with an hours of operation restriction. And if you do pass it, I mean, as the law provides, we would have a grandfathered non-conforming status for our nighttime operations. But also, you know, this restriction, you know, we would see it as a taking, and because of that, because it would diminish the value of their property, and being a taking, you know, Harahan would have to pay Wood just compensation for the diminished value in its property. As you know, the initial version of this ordinance was the prime reason why Wood felt it had to protect its rights and file suit, and had no alternative but to file suit against the city of Harahan. Passing of this ordinance is just going to ramp up legal activity again and require the city and Wood Materials to incur costs and expenses, which is not what Wood wants to see for Harahan when the city is trying to find ways to fund all of its services and keep insurance costs down for its employees. On September 9th, 2016, we requested to have a meeting to discuss a potential meeting between Wood and the city to hopefully resolve all litigation in an amicable manner. To date, we have not received a response to our request, but we however still remain hopeful that the city, like us, will desire to resolve all these issues amicably and not through costly and timely consuming litigation, and that you'll reach out to us to have a meeting. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tommy Buddy, 7208 Stoneleigh Drive. I'll keep it real brief. We still have an extreme speeding problem on Riverside Drive. We see police out there, but they can't be there 24 hours a day. 30, 40, 50, 60 miles an hour is not unheard of. We had some discussion about the possibility of speeding cameras on Riverside Drive. Westwego does it very effectively. It's not to replace the police department, can supplement them. I haven't heard anything from government, and so before the night's over, if someone could comment on where we stand, is there a possibility, is it being explored, is it gonna happen, is it not gonna happen? I know there's a few other people that live or have houses on Riverside Drive that are very interested in this topic. It's a safety issue. Thank you.
Robert Johnson, 6735 Riverside Drive. I also agree that there's a problem with speeding on Riverside Drive. I really can't understand Woods. Sarah Woodham got up and said, hopefully legal matters can be put aside. Then her attorney, who's not on the same page, came up and threatened more legal matters. I mean, he said, if y'all do this, we're gonna sue. You know, they won't take down their suit. I don't know how we can trust them. The Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries says the pallid sturgeon is an endangered species. The U.S. government says it is also an endangered species. And the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries gave advice to the Department of Natural Resources after reviewing Wood's latest dredging application that measures be taken to avoid the sturgeon breeding season and any degradation of water quality in the Mississippi River during their breeding season of May through August. And Wood incorporated the advice of Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries on necessary measures to protect the endangered pallid sturgeon in its final plats and made it part of its coastal use permit application. And in reliance on the purported truthful statements in Wood's application, Louisiana Department of Natural Resources on August 22nd determined that the activities set forth in their application would have no direct and significant impact on coastal waters. 2 days later, Wood announced its intention to violate its application conditions and to dredge sand and to disturb the spawning grounds of the endangered sturgeon during its breeding season. And in fact, on August 26th, they did begin dredging river sand when they weren't supposed to dredge, but according to what they had filed with the Louisiana Department of Natural Resources between May and August. This is who we're dealing with. Same thing with Jefferson Parish. They file a peer application, Parish Infrastructure and Environmental Review. That's for their operations, not in Harahan, but we're in unincorporated Jefferson Parish. They said only 1 acre is going to be disturbed. Well, in fact, they have about 25 acres in Jefferson Parish in unincorporated.
Motion for 3 more minutes.
I have a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Benton for 3 more minutes. All in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion passes.
Thank you, Council. They said only 1 acre was going to be disturbed. They have 25 acres approximately in unincorporated Jefferson Parish. Well, there's a reason you put 1 acre. It's a scale of fees that you pay. And if you say you're only going to damage less than 1 acre, you pay only $500. If you say you're going to damage more than 5,000 acres, or excuse me, more than 15 acres, you pay $5,000. So 500, 5,000, we'll just put down under 1 acre. They also put down what we're going to do there. They said we're going to put sand and we're going to put crushed limestone. That's all. What's over there today? Broken concrete, crushed concrete, broken asphalt, crushed asphalt. We think that sand is a problem. When they bring their concrete crushing operation over to unincorporated Jefferson, right outside our border, less than 800 feet from the closest residences in Harahan, you've got smoke, really bad stuff from crushed concrete. That's it. I don't know. Nobody comes up here and speaks for them, and there may be a reason for that.
I'm Christian Cancian, 36 Haraleans. In 2007, I was cited for public nuisance for, I have a construction company on Hickory. And I have a construction company on Hickory, and we started at 5 a.m. Well, right behind Mr. Kerry's house that works for the maintenance department. In 2007, we were cited for public nuisance because of the backup machines, and we couldn't start before 7 a.m. So we changed our business practices and started at 7 a.m. because we were cited. But that's not why I'm up here. I'm up here because Sunday I have 2 feet of water in my driveway in front of all my businesses. And right now, all of the drains are packed with sand. And so I just need them clean.
Thank you. I'm going to be quick. Just at the beginning of the meeting, you had said that the sewage millage in 2012 failed for
Was it advertised?
wasn't advertised correctly, and that's incorrect. It
That's
failed
what I was
because
informed by, I
it
thought,
expired
Mr.
December
Martin.
31st of 2012, and it failed for not being put back on the ballot again to be renewed.
Okay, thank
So
you
that
for
I
the
just wanted to
clarification.
clarify that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole.
We will now address the council. Approval of the minutes. Well, we had to.
Reading of the minutes of the council meeting on August 29th.
Do I have a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes? I have a motion by Councilman Bodier, seconded by?
Second.
Councilman Johnson, all in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion passes.
Approval of the minutes of the council meeting on August 29th.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman
Second.
Bodier, seconded by Councilman Wheeler. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion passes.
All right, communications. The Board of Adjustments and Appeals did not meet in August, and the Planning and Zoning Board did not meet in September. And resolutions.
Resolutions.
All right, the following resolution was proposed unanimously by the Council of the City of Harahan. A resolution accepting funds from Jefferson Parish in the amount of $4,200 for additional and updated lighting on the Harahan Gym site. Whereas the City of Harahan is a city within the Parish of Jefferson, and whereas the Parish of Jefferson entered into an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Harahan to assist the City of Harahan in securing additional and updated lighting for the premises and facilities compromising the Harahan Gym site. And whereas the City of Harahan appreciates the assistance of Jefferson Parish Councilman Paul Johnston, District 2. Now therefore be it resolved by the Harahan City Council, acting as governing authority of said city, that the City of Harahan hereby accepts funding from the Parish of Jefferson in the amount not to exceed $4,200 for additional and updated lighting on the Harahan Gym site. This resolution, in effect, amends the capital project fund as follows: revenue line items, miscellaneous revenue, recreation department, and expense line item for recreation department. The foregoing resolution having been submitted to a vote, the vote thereon was as follows.
Do I have a motion to open to public hearing?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Johnson, seconded by Councilman Benton. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. If anyone would like to come and speak to this resolution. If there is no one here to speak to this resolution, do I have a motion to close the public hearing? I have a motion by Councilman Bodier, seconded by Councilman Benton. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. It is now open to council discussion. If there is no council discussion, do I have a?
Yeah.
Oh, we will. I think he left. Is he still here? Okay. Do I have a motion to? Okay. Do I have a motion to proceed with the vote?
Motion.
To accept the resolution? I have a motion by Councilman Wheeler, seconded by Councilman Bodier. All in favor of this generous donation through Councilman Johnson? It's all in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. And Councilman Johnson, thank you for facilitating the $4,200 for the lighting in the gym. Thank you very much.
All right, we ready?
We
for
gotta,
the
we gotta
next
beat it. Okay. Proposed.
All right, proposed resolution number 2016-13. The following resolution was offered by Councilman Johnston. A resolution to preserve the peace, tranquility, safety, and health of the citizens of the City of Harahan. Whereas the citizens of the City of Harahan have the right to enjoy the peace and tranquility and enjoyment of their homes and property. And whereas the citizens of the City of Harahan have the right to live in a safe and healthy environment. And whereas certain uses and operations on the Batcher of the Mississippi River within the City of Harahan, which are not permitted uses as authorized by the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of the City of Harahan, as amended, threaten the peace, tranquility, safety, and health of the citizens of the City of Harahan. And whereas the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of the City of Harahan sets forth all permitted uses in, on, and or around the Batcher of the Mississippi River within the city of Harahan, with the city of Harahan. And whereas only those permitted uses are authorized in any zoning district within the city of Harahan. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Harahan, acting as the governing authority of said city, that the mayor direct the city attorney to institute all legal actions necessary to enforce the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the city of Harahan, more particularly as it applies to permitted uses of the Batcher within the city. The mayor also direct the regulatory director, acting with the city attorney, to issue a stop work order to any person or corporation or anyone acting in concert with them from engaging in any use not permitted by the comprehensive zoning ordinance of the city of Harahan. The foregoing resolution having been submitted to a vote, the vote thereon was as follows.
City Attorney Burris, do we need a second
that
for the
done?
resolution
How do you get this done?
to offer it?
No.
Resolutions, no.
No.
No?
Ordinances.
I'm just making sure. Okay. I want to make sure we stay with form. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing to
Motion.
discuss the resolution? I have a motion by Councilman Johnston, seconded by Councilman Wheeler. All in favor?
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion passes. We're open to public hearing. If anyone would like to discuss this resolution, if there's no one here. No.
This is
No.
about 1333.
Okay.
We're enforcing it. Yeah.
This is the resolution, not the ordinance.
Not the ordinance.
This is the ordinance I brought up.
The ordinance
9
would just
months
be
ago,
coming
about
up for first reading. You
1333.
wouldn't be able to talk during the ordinance part. But the
This is
resolution,
enforce it.
Here is the ordinance that y'all
The
are gonna
resolution.
enforce.
Resolution.
A resolution to enforce.
to enforce.
1333.
1333,
Correct.
and to put an end to the illegal activity that's going on the Batcher.
This is to enforce.
It's a resolution.
A resolution to
Right.
that. And all of Harahan will be able to get behind this resolution.
This is more of
To-
a
Request
request to
for
enforce.
the mayor to
This is
enforce
address
it.
the council, so.
The mayor to address, but also we have a police department and a fire department and code enforcement that can look at the situation. I mean, the mayor doesn't have to stand by herself. I think even y'all can probably write letters to people too, about the board, because I think the lawsuit that they had, Carlo had brought up in 1984 to 1988, that the aldermen got together and passed the ordinance to protect the citizens of Harahan. So Harahan needs to stand together. That's one thing that we're not doing too good right now, but we need to stand together as a community, because this is a large company. They can buy Harahan 10 times over. But if we stand together, we can win this. So anytime y'all want, I live at 3 Ren Pass. Come and get me, call me on the telephone. I'll do whatever I have to do. But the ordinance of Harahan has to be enforced. There's no sense in having a city if we don't enforce our laws. There's no sense in having Riverside Drive if anybody can drive any speed they want down Riverside Drive. I've seen people pass double yellow lines because there's not enough police officers. We need more police officers also, but we need to stand together. And I appreciate each one of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Remy Donnelly, Counsel for Wood Materials. Just a clarification, this is to provide that the city attorney can enforce the comprehensive zoning ordinance. Is that what y'all trying to pass right now?
This is to, right, for the city attorney, the mayor, to work together to enforce the
To-
law that's currently at
Not
hand.
changing any.
This is
No.
address the
Okay,
council.
thank you.
I just want, if I'm speaking in the wrong spot, just say, Ellen Ream, 3 Ren Pass. A little tired. but I'm going. Just like Cassian said, you know, he can't work until 7 o'clock in the morning. You know, he wanted to start his stuff up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but couldn't do that. But Wood Materials wants to run the entire night, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all night long. So I think that, you know, then for them to come up and now want to do a lawsuit, if you don't let me have my way, I'm going to sue you. But I know that if a police officer pulls me over tomorrow for doing 60 and a 40, I'm not going to be able to go, you know what, I'm going to sue you if you give me a ticket. That's outrageous. And it's outrageous that this company can come sit here and know that they would wake us up all night, and they would not want to be woke up all night. If we went to their house and beat by their window, they would call the police. If we put sand on their sports car, they would call the police. You just need to treat people the way you want to be treated. And I think the company should be up here saying, we're sorry that we woke y'all up all night. When you got 4 pits, this is not a Monopoly game, Park Place and all those other places. When you got 4 pit yards, you can use 3. I think you should be very happy and satisfied. But when you have to use all 4, and especially the one that's by residents, I think that's being greedy. I think that's terrible. And I think it's unfair to the residents, and we need you guys to do whatever you can. We've been up here for, 16 months. We need y'all to do something to do this right. If they sue Harahan, they're going to go to court, and the judge is going to say, really? You're suing Harahan because you want to run all night long? You want to put more sand all over them? How silly is that? The judge is going to look at them and tell them to go home. You can't run operations all night and wake people up. That's unheard of. People work hard. They come home and pay for a 30-year loan on a house that's full of sand. But now let's wake them up, too. Let's keep them up all night long. They were at the bottom of a pit before. They fill in the pits up really quick, and they have all intentions to come back here because they think they can do whatever they want, and nobody can stop them. Please, stop them. Do not let them beep all night like alarm clock and horns blowing and diesel and engines and tearing up the river road and filling the sand, the drains with sand. I mean, they sit here and they listen to us, but they say, we're going to sue you if you do it. Care for the citizens, please. We got a lot of problems in Harahan. Please, pass this and don't let them come back here. I guarantee you they got 3 other pits they can use, and the revenue goes not to Harahan, it goes to where the sand is delivered. So please help us, and please don't let us have to have this to return and beep all night long. They've never done nighttime operation before, and they would turn this into a company that they can give you sand faster and quicker with no traffic at 3 o'clock in the morning if you like it. This is ridiculous. It needs to stop.
Hey, Mitchell, 41 Oak. I totally agree with Evelyn, and I want to thank you for everything you're doing for us because we're going to get there. We're not giving up. We believe in Harahan, and you know what? I want to put a Harahan Lives Matter sign on my door because we really do matter. Our quality of life matters, and it's up to y'all. You know, and when you look back in history of the Harahan Council, what do you want it to say about you? Do you want it to say that you protected us and you made a difference in our lives, or do you want it to say that you did nothing? Come on, make history, especially as a woman in this day and age. Come on, represent us. Come on, kick butt. Do it for us. This is your job, and we're counting on you for it. Make our lives comfortable because they don't care about us. You need to care about us. Make history. Write your book.
Do I have a motion to close address the council? Oh, wait, thank you.
Since the resolution is directed to the city attorney, by way of communication to the council, I'd like to let you know what has been done. On June 17th, 2016, Wood Companies filed a first supplemental and amending verified petition suing the city of Harahan over Ordinance 2016-3, which sought to impose restrictions on the hours of operation. That proposed ordinance was introduced before they began operation with respect to the airport construction. As you know, that ordinance went to the Planning and Zoning Board, which refused to vote it out.
It was then called back to the council. The author withdrew support, and then no one else on the council took up the matter, so that ordinance died on the vine. In response to that ordinance, while it was still pending, Wood sued the city, claiming that the ordinance was going to be a taking of its property. And it also sued to have a declaratory judgment declaring the compost operation, which is not a permitted use under the zoning classification of NU Batcher District, declared a non-conforming use that it had acquired by virtue of having engaged in the composting operation since 2010. The city filed a reconventional demand against Wood Materials on July 21st, 2016, seeking the same declaratory judgment from the court that their operation in composting on the Batcher is an illegal land use. It's not comporting with our zoning law, and that none of the documents that we had seen indicated that Wood had been doing anything out there for composting until December 2011, so that the 5-year prescriptive period had not run, and we were still within our time to sue them to shut down the composting operation. Wood Materials' answer to our lawsuit was due, I believe it was August 16th. On that day, I received from Wood's counsel a letter, an email letter that says, "You probably know Governor Edwards has suspended all legal deadlines until September 9th. This was as a result of the flooding in Baton Rouge. Our deadline to answer your reconventional demand was tomorrow before this order came out. While we won't take until September 9th to file our responsive pleadings to the reconventional demand, I'm still trying to tie up a few loose ends." Well, in fact, they did take until September 9th to file an answer to our reconventional demand, along with discovery requests, requesting all correspondence that has been directed to this council or the administration regarding the operations of the Wood Materials sand pits and the compost heap. So we have to produce all of these documents for them. The mayor has advised me that because of short staffing situations in City Hall, it's approximately how many pages of documents, Ms. Mayor?
Hundreds and hundreds.
Well, we will request that the court give us an extension of time in which to respond to this. I've let all the councilmen know that if you have correspondence from any constituents or from Wood Materials concerning these operations, provide them to me. I'll review them, redact them, and produce them to Wood Materials. But I just want to let you know that, especially the citizens, that something is being done. We are in litigation. The Reams lawsuit, which they filed in 24th JDC with independent counsel, was removed by Wood Materials to federal district court, so that the Reams lawyers now are fighting to get it back into the 24th JDC. But I will be filing, and I have told Wood's lawyers this, we will be filing because they produce nothing to me that indicates that they have a non-conforming use in that Batcher. We will be filing a petition for injunctive relief in front of the district court within the week to get a date to go before Judge Kovach to get the compost operation resolved. So that's what the city attorney has been doing with respect to Wood Material. I have one question for the administration. Does the city of Harahan own a calibrated decibel level meter?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, well, that's what we need to bring out to the levee in the middle of the night to determine whether the noise ordinance is being violated.
And also, I would suggest that any citizen who feels as though the noise ordinance is being violated is to call 911 or Harahan Dispatch, and the police will respond. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilman Johnston, seconded by Councilman Wheeler. All in favor?
Yay.
Yay.
Any opposed? We have 5 yeas, 0 nays. Ms. Judy is asking for a recess, but we'll take 3-minute recess for personal privilege. Thank you.